Hi folks, today making up brake lines for the Range Rover project. So I'm working on the front caliper. The brake lines run around the caliper and then they fix into a union, which I'm missing at the moment, but they go into a union there, and the flexible hoses take it into the body and onto the master cylinder. So how am I doing it? Right, first and foremost, I get a rough idea of what they look like, because I've lost the old pipes. A bit daft, I know, but I've lost the old pipes, and that was somewhat irritating, but you know, these things happen. Right, okay, so here's a bit of scrap pipe. I'm going to test this out because I'll show you what I've been doing. Actually, first and foremost, what I've been doing is taking a piece of rod and feeding it into the miracle machine. Whoops. Feeding it into the miracle machine, and yeah, it comes out straight. Hey! Except it's coming out better. Right, okay. It's because I've put a flare on the end of this one. It works beautifully when there isn't a flare on it. There we are, it's going through now. Okay, so just run it backwards and forwards a couple of times, pull it through, straight. Nice, that'll do the job. So that's that. I've already put a flare on each of these pieces, and there's 3 more of these pieces which need to go from the slave cylinders around on the front calipers. So here's one of my earlier attempts, and it didn't work, so this is just a scrap piece of conifer piping now. So let me show you how this little fella works here, because I've got different types of brake flaring tools. I've got this one, nothing wrong with it. It works really well. It's just a faff, so I tend to keep that in the box. What I am using, however, is this little fella, and this is specific for the 3/16 size of brake pipe. So what you do is you feed the brake pipe in. I mean, obviously you would put the union on there first. Let's do that. So we'll put a union on, because I'm going to cut this off later on. Put the pipe in. Okay, there goes the pipe. Right, minor interruption there. You feed the brake pipe in, and these little nuts on the top here, they allow the unit to split in half. It basically is just a... I'll take it apart and I'll show you what it does. It's quite clever actually. I like it. So these bolts come right off, and in there you can see there's a channel where the brake line goes into that channel there. Fucking hell, gravity today. Channel goes into there, and then what you're basically doing is you're creating a flare in this part here. So let's bung him back together again before I chuck any more bits on the floor. So say this particular tool specific for 3/16 brake line, which is the majority of kind of classic cars that I work on, are this size of brake line. Now it doesn't matter what orientation the brake line goes in here, because the flare is circular, so it makes no odds. It makes sense to put it in such a way that you're not going to bend the pipe any further. Right, then you've got this blanking plug. The idea of this blanking plug is this goes in and sets the brake line at exactly the right depth. Clever, huh? Once that's in, tighten them up. Then remove the plug. Give them another little tighten. The idea of tightening this is so the brake line doesn't slip out when you're putting the pressure on it. Now inside there you can just about see the brake line. What I then do is I use this adapter. So every flare starts with this end. It's got an indentation in it, and the idea is the pin goes down the inside of the pipe, and it forces the pipe into a nice flare like that one. If you are working, and these are all male connectors, if you're working with a female connector like this one, then you need to squash that balloon. What you do is you take out this, turn it around, and then use that end, and it squashes it flat. So you end up with a double flare for male and female brake unions. Right, next thing I do is I put a little bit of this grease. It's just, I think it's just red grease that I use in the calipers anyway, but it came with this particular tool. It winds in. We get the tool on it, and we tighten him up. It goes tight at this point, so what you need to do is keep tightening it until there's no gap in there, i.e. it's gone as far as it's going to go. There we are, that's it. Now we pull him off and we undo the tool, And there we have a beautiful double flare, and it was as easy as that. You see why I use this tool. So what will basically happen is when you first put this into a caliper for the very first time, you're going to need to do it fairly tight. Obviously not so tight that you're going to wrap your knuckles on everything, but this flare needs to fit itself into the union. Now, this silver one I've used here isn't quite as nice as the bronze ones. The bronze ones have got a nice little beveled edge inside them, which means that the flare is going to sit into that and create a nice tight union. Right, so that's how the brake flare works. Let me just pop these bits away. Next we need to shape the brake pipe. Let's pop that in there. Just do these bits up because I don't need to use this again today, so I'm just popping it all away. That goes in there, that goes in there. This is what I use to cut the brake line with. I don't use a hacksaw, I use this. Creates a nice clean cut, no messing around. Right, so next thing we do, because I've only made up one half of this, I'll put the union on there, goes up to the flare. I'll fit the union into the caliper. I'm using the caliper to help me bend the thing in the right direction. Okay, let's lay the caliper down so it is nice and stable. Let's do it like that. That'll do. I'll just give it a little nip so it's not too wiggly. So the line is in the caliper now. Now I need to create a U on that to replicate the U on here, but it's too tight for my brake pipe bender. This is my brake pipe bender. This thing's really quite neat. Let me talk about this for a second. So if I wanted to bend a pipe, what I do is I put the pipe into, and I rotate whichever way I want it to go, and then literally just pull it around as far as I need to, and there's a bend. Look at that. No kink, nice and round, beautiful. And it works in so many different ways. So I can now create a bend going back the other way. So there we are. I can make quite complex shapes out of it. The problem is the radius. That's obviously the smallest radius it can do. I need to create something more of that radius. Cube, the next piece. Right, so what I do is I put the socket against the pipe and very, very gently pivot it around. It's as easy as that. That's one of them done. So what I'll do is I'll create a pair for this caliper. Let's just move that one out of the way. So I just loosened it and moved it over. Put that down a little bit. Let's put the other union on. Fit him into the caliper. And again, nip him up. What you want to try and avoid is making any sort of tight bend on any form of brake line or cuneiform or anything like that. Trying to avoid doing that with your hands, bare hands, because it just makes a mess of it. So I'm going to literally just again bend it around the socket. You see, it's gone around the socket. Just a little bit further. There we go. Right, now let's loosen these two off. So what they need to do is they need to go up like this. Now, looking at the picture, they run up along that side, that edge of the caliper, but before the bleed nipple. The joint, the union that's nearest to the mounting is the bottom one. So the joint that's furthest away from the mounting, i.e. this one here, is the top one. So what I then do is I get a little bit of tape. I just label that one as top, because when I come to fit the other end, I want to know which is the top pipe and which is the bottom pipe. It just makes life a little bit easier. Right, okay, so let's get these roughly in the right position. Now, because I'm doing a gentle bend, I'm quite happy to bend that with my fingers. Again, I'm supporting one side and I'm just bending it around my finger. I think that's pretty good. Let's nip him up so that he stays in position. Okay, and then we'll bring this other one round and we're going to replicate that bend there. Okay, and we're going to nip him up. So what we now got is we've got the two brake lines running parallel to the side of the side of the caliper. Right, now these fellas now need to go across the top. So again, what we do is we need to bend them around this area here. So let me, if I were to use this, and what I'm going to do is I want them to bend approximately on that arc there, and that's going to be the wrong way round, so I need to do it like this. So I think that's about the right sort of place. Let me just bend him around. He's done that. They're going to need to bend outwards as well. Have I done that wrong? I might have done that wrong. Hang on a minute. Measure twice, cut once. Yes, they run parallel to the mounting. So as long as it runs parallel to the mounting, I've not done it wrong. It runs parallel to the mounting, so it's bang on. That's on the nail. Right, so right now, because we've done that, let's loosen that so it's out of the way. Because I don't want to knacker this one when I work on the next one. But I do want to make sure that the bend is in the same sort of place, so let's just mark that where the bend goes. Right, let's put that there. Wrong way around again, silly boy. On this thing you've got a number of different channels, and I'm using the thinnest one here, which seems to fit these pipes quite nicely. Right, so just putting that there, bracing it against the outside, and again, just pulling it around the channel. There we go, he's on. Let's put this one back. Right, I can't actually finish this particular, these two particular pipes because, as I said earlier, I've left the brackets that go on top of the swivel housings at home. So basically there's a bracket which sits on here, which these pipes will go through. And the bracket kind of holds the pipe rigid, and then the flexi goes around the other side of it. As I say, I can't do that, so I'm just putting the pipes in now so they're ready to do that. The nice thing about this tool is you can actually work on the pipe when it's actually attached to the car. These are pipes that I made up yesterday. As you can see, I've got a bigger radius on these ones here because it didn't actually matter quite so much. I need to put the brake back plates back on. But yeah, that's it. Master class in brake pipes. I'm making up new conifer brake pipes for this Range Rover. Anyway, happy with that. What I'll do is I'll bolt that caliper straight on, and then once I've got the other ends on going through the union, then I can adjust these pipes so that they run nice and parallel with each other, like they have done there, making sure of course that I can access the mounting holes for the caliper here and here, and also that the pipes don't interfere with the bleed nipples, and nor they touch the caliper. I don't want them to touch the caliper, nor do I really want them to touch each other, and the reason for that is the less that they're touching, the less chance that they're going to fracture. But that's that one done, ready for the other ends when I get round to getting those bits. Okay, that was it.